Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. Vashi on CTV has been questioning the panel to see if there's a possibility for a December election. So we're going to go through that and also some questions from the leader of the opposition in question period. Without no further ado, let's get into it. But first, if you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Now, to the video.
The Sunday Scrum to talk about that. Robert Fife is the Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Globe and Mail. Next to him, Sherelle Evelyn is the Managing Editor of the Hill Times, and Joel Denis Belvance rounds us out. He's the Ottawa Bureau Chief for La Presse. Hi, everybody. Very, very good to see you. What's your take, JD? Is this what it's going to be like from now on, or was it an outlier?
This is the flavor of the month that will last until the election is called, I think, because the tempers have been flaring, and I think the Conservative, for one, they smell blood on the floor, and so they want to take advantage of it by forcing an election. And the Bloc Québécois is also becoming to that same conclusion quietly. The only remaining outstanding party is the NDP. What we'll do when there's a actual non-confidence motion that is supported by the Conservative and the Bloc Québécois, that's going to be up to the NDP either to force an election or to stay the government. That's, I think, until then, we will see the nature of the speech as, angry as we have seen this week. And it feels to me like we've been in session for 5 months in a row non-stop because of the intensity of the debate.
It also feels pretty genuine.
So I think they're talking about the non-confidence vote that the Conservatives put through the second time. And I believe Vashi's asking about whether this is going to be a common thing, whether the Conservatives are going to put no confidence votes over and over and over again. And I think they should, because I think the Bloc Québécois gave the Liberals a deadline saying if you don't give us this stuff by October 29th, you might just have a vote of no confidence. Then all we need is a couple of NDP seats, and they're not too happy with Jagmeet Singh. And we got an election on our hands, folks.
Genuine, Sherelle, on everybody's part, and in particular, I mean, we spent many times gathered together talking about how many hits the Liberals are taking. It's the one arena where I have the sense that they feel actually the opposite of that, like they feel a bit emboldened.
Yeah, they absolutely feel emboldened because they know that it works. They're in there they're making their clips for social media. That's essentially what they want to get out of this. The opposition is trying to embarrass the government, as you know, question period has pretty much always been about. But when you add social media onto that, and that's what works, that's what connects, that's what people want, or they feel that people want to see. And then you also have now, because as Joel Denis said, that blood in the water, everybody's getting that little bit feistier, that little bit itchier. And the Liberals are also fighting back in a way that we haven't really seen them do before, because now it becomes more apparent to them that they have to say, okay, well, here's the contrast. This is what you have to pick from. It's us or it's them. Are these the people? And by these people, I mean the Conservatives. Are these the people that you want representing you? So they're not going to let things slide where they might have before.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Bob, you've covered a few.
Actually, I follow the Conservatives online a lot, follow them on X and all that, and they haven't really been putting out any question period videos recently. It seems, at least from, let's say, the midsummer, they've been putting out more, well, even before summer, they've been putting out more and more long-form sort of promotional videos rather than hit pieces. Like I remember over the summer, Pierre Poilievre put out at least 3 long-form videos explaining why Canada is at the point that it is. And yeah, sure, it took a lot of digs at Trudeau and the Liberals, but that never used to be a thing. Like, usually what parties would do is they put out 2-minute videos out on TV about what their party does, or well, what their party is and digs at the opposition, and that's it. But Pierre Poilievre's pretty much used the internet to turn all of this on a dime and literally make a show about politics and about history and just about everything. So
few of these moments in time where we're on the potential precipice of an election. How does this one measure up?
Well, it's still fairly tame compared to back in Pierre Trudeau's days. Yeah. There was a 2-week bell ringing session where Parliament was shut down. During the constitutional debate, the Conservative MPs stormed the speaker's chair with their fist waving at the speaker. And during Mulroney's year, the Rat Pack, Sheila Copps, who was part of the Rat Pack, jumped over a table in the House of Commons committee to go after St. Clair Stevens. So it's bad, but not anywhere like it was. But if it starts to get like this, and by the way, it's very likely could get like this because the government is in the end of its days, and people want an election campaign. And, there is a real threat here that we may have an election before Christmas.
I'm glad that you bring that up because that's what I wanted to conclude on. I want to survey all three of you. We'll meet later in the year, I'm sure, and get your take. We've been talking today about the possibility of that. What is your sense on the possibility, JD, of an election before Christmas?
Well, Bloc Québécois MPs were told to get their picture taken for election signs. So that, to me, shows that this party is getting ready for one. The Conservative, we know. So the only joker remaining is the NDP. So I think it's going to be up to the NDP. Everything will be up in their hands. They will have the final decision of whether we go in the polls this fall.
NDP, who, Sherelle?
I do not think the NDP, though. I keep saying that, yeah, all we need is 2 or a couple of NDP voters. But to be completely honest, I don't think we're going to get the NDP on our side for this because the NDP know that once the Conservatives are in, they're going to get a majority. And then the NDP have no power in Parliament after that, at least for 4 years. The one thing about the Bloc Québécois, I don't like that they're keeping the government in power, but politically it makes sense because the only time they ever have power is in a minority government. So I don't like it, but I understand it. But the NDP, at least Jagmeet went out and did all this hullabaloo about ripping everything up and we're gonna take this vote by vote, and they're just giving their votes of confidence away. They're saying they don't have confidence in the Liberal government, yet they're voting confidence in the government. It's weird.
Well, this week have been very quiet. What is your take on the possibility of an election?
I think it's possible because we're in a minority parliament. Of course, it's possible. The Bloc Québécois, they've given the Liberals an ultimatum that I think they're basically setting them up to fail. They say, hey, pass these 2 bills, which you don't really have control over on one of them because it's in the Senate and has been for a long time, and the other one, is a special case, needs a royal recommendation. There's all kinds of things going on there. So yeah, pharmacare is going to be done really soon in the Senate, so that means the NDP have that little more leeway to say, hey, we're ready to go. So it's entirely possible.
They have leeway, but do they have any political incentive to do so? The NDP, Bob?
Well, first, I think we're probably going to have an election in the fall, but I won't rule out one. Sorry, not in the fall.
Oh, I was like, wow, breaking news here. Bob Fife, thanks for going. I better get my bags back. Yeah.
I meant an election in the spring, but I think a fall is still possible because even the NDP, they have to be looking at the fact, what if for some reason Mr. Trudeau decides to go and then they get a better Liberal leader that could change the whole dynamics of an election campaign. So if you're thinking, like, he's down, he's never coming back. If we're gonna have an election and that's gonna benefit us now, maybe we want to do it before Christmas in case he changes his mind and decides to take a walk in the snow and turn over the party to somebody else.
Yeah, I think that might be the.
Though I do not think Trudeau has set up his cabinet that way. Who are they going to bring in? Mark Carney, who is not officially part of cabinet, but he's part of the Liberal Party. Sort of. I don't even know what's going on there still. He's part of the Liberal Party and he's just kind of consulting with the finance minister. Anyways, he's the only one I could really see kind of swooping in out of nowhere and taking Trudeau's job. But I see the Liberal Party right now is sort of like the Empire off of Star Wars. Once the Emperor goes, the whole party doesn't have a second in command to really take up the pedestal. So the whole party is just going to crumble. And that's the way Trudeau has set it up. That's why he's in all of the interviews and everything like that. Anyways, so there's what they think about a December election. What do you think? Are the professionals correct? Do you think there's going to be a December election? Now, with no further ado, on to question period. So this was from yesterday, and we're going to start from the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, and see where it goes. Doesn't look like Justin Trudeau's there, so we might not be going into this too much into depth.
On to question period. I would like to note that since we have returned from our summer recess, there have been a number of questions and comments that have gone beyond the bounds in this House.
In question period, to only let the person who is speaking to ask the question and the person responding to respond, and to slow down your heckling. Oral questions. Questions.
Yes, teacher. We know. Let's get to the fun part.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Mr. Speaker, after 9 years of this Liberal bloc, they have doubled the debt, increased taxes. After these 9 years, seniors are struggling to pay the bills. Record numbers of seniors have to go to food banks to eat. They're struggling to pay rent since the cost of housing has doubled. Their children and grandchildren can't buy a home like they would have been able to in other times. Will the government accept our common sense plan? We want to fix the budget and axe the tax so that our seniors can pay their bills with dignity. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, seniors in Canada remember very well what Conservative policy for seniors were. They remember that in Davos, Prime Minister Harper announced that he would increase the retirement age from 65 to 67. As for grandchildren, seniors support our national daycare program for their grandchildren. We will work for them and for their grandchildren. The Honourable Leader.
Interesting how they're still saying or talking about the daycare or $10 a day daycare when the grandparents don't have to take care of the kids anymore. It's not up to them. It's up to the parents. So I don't really know why the seniors would be so ecstatic about $10 a day daycare. Unless there's something going on that is very odd. But the reason why Stephen Harper brought the age of retirement from 65 to 67 was because people are getting older. And because of that, people didn't save up enough money to extend them into their later 80s. later 80s, maybe 90s. So that extra 2 years means you can save up more money, and it means you can compound more years of that interest. With the medical technology we have now, it's actually a good thing that retirement was 2 years later. And probably by the time I'm older, it might be retirement at 70 when we start living until, I don't know, 95, 100.
Of the opposition, Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois leader keeps picking fights and squabbling with the government of Quebec. Instead, he should be defending the nation of Quebec. But rather than doing so, he says he's happy that the forestry sector is under threat. Quebec's environment minister said the opposite, though. He said, I would like the Bloc Québécois to defend us more strongly than they are currently. Will the Prime Minister listen to those who really truly have common sense and permanently reverse this decree? The Honourable Public Services and Procurement Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative leader talks about squabbles. Well, he's picked a fight with each and every single municipality in Quebec. He's called mayors incompetent. Will he finally apologize for calling municipalities, their employees, incompetent? When he was Minister of Housing, he built a grand total of 6 housing units. The Honourable Member for Parnell.
I'm just going to say again, the reason why the Conservatives didn't build that many low-income, affordable housing units was because we didn't need them and didn't want them, and by we, I mean the populace, back then because times were good under the Conservatives. So that means nothing. And they built, I think, the 1 year that he was housing minister, over 200,000 homes, which is around average, but still. And we weren't growing at the rate we are right now, so it wasn't an issue for us. And I think the reason why Pierre Poilievre is criticizing these municipalities is because a lot of times, at least from what I've seen, a lot of the mayors end up not, I don't want to say it's incompetence, but it sort of is, because they end up not maintaining their own city or anticipating that the growth of their city is going to impact their infrastructure. Think of here in Edmonton with the sheer amount of road construction because of the cold weather and because of the increased amount of cars on the roads. And our mayor and our municipalities just can't get it together to figure out how we can fix this stuff long term, or at least when construction happens, they don't close all the roads. I think of Calgary, where they've been building out so many houses, but not upgrading the water mains, so the water lines start bursting. Well, the main water line burst, and then a part of the city is out of water for 2 months. I think it was 2 or 3 months. No, yeah, it was 2 months. Sorry. I mean, it's things like that that these municipalities have to be criticized for, and they should be criticized for, because that keeps them in check. That keeps them being better. If they're not ever criticized, then they don't know if they're doing things wrong.
I would ask you to please leave the floor to those who are recognized by the chair. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Carbon tax Carney became conflict of interest Carney when the Prime Minister named him to be effectively the phantom finance minister to advise on economic policy while he presides over a massive multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation that sought 10 billion Canadian tax dollars to take over our pension system. He's got a $2 billion loan for a friend, and now we learn that the economic task force he heads up has only one person. Isn't he a walking, talking conflict of interest?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we are glad to get economic advice from smart former Canadian central bankers like Mark Carney and like Steve Pelosi, who is doing some great work advising us on how to encourage Canadian pension funds to invest more in Canada. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, on that side of the House, they get their foreign policy advice from Elon Musk and from Tucker Carlson. They should be ashamed of themselves. The people of Ukraine certainly know what's going on.
The Honourable Leader of the...
Okay, that took a weird turn because I don't know how Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson came into that monetary policy thing, because both Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson don't talk about financial stuff. The most I've heard Elon Musk talk about is technology, and Tucker Carlson, it's politics. And then going on about Ukraine, what does that have to do with Canada's finance issues? I don't understand. I guess I don't speak Freeland, so yeah, somebody's gonna have to help me in the comments below. So while you subscribe, definitely try and translate what she's saying below. The reason it's an issue that Mark Carney's doing this is because he's part of, or he's a consultant to the Liberal Party, but he's not an MP, so he doesn't follow the same rules as the MP. So he can be invested in some random company and then tell Justin Trudeau to, not Justin Trudeau, he'd tell Christopher Freeland, hey, this stock looks like it's going to go up. We should invest more into this, or we should do this. And then the government invests into that while Mark Carney's either highly invested in it or owns part of it, and he doesn't, and his stocks go up. And that's the issue, because he doesn't have to disclose that to the government while the MPs do. So we'd never know that corruption is happening. And that's what the Conservatives are saying, is he's not part of the government, so there's conflict of interest, and he doesn't follow the rules. So get him out. You should not be touching or advising anything.
The opposition.
Madam Speaker, today the Premier, Mr. Speaker, today the very courageous and common sense Premier of New Brunswick launched a renewed lawsuit against the quadrupling carbon tax. He's pointing out that this carbon tax will force the layoff of nurses, doctors, and teachers because of the extra cost it imposes on operating schools and hospitals. Instead of requiring courts to decide on the quadrupling carbon tax, why won't the Prime Minister let the people decide in a carbon tax election?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
I am so glad that the Leader of the Opposition gives me an opportunity to talk about the price on pollution, because we made a great announcement just a few minutes ago, and that is that small businesses in the province of New Brunswick that he was talking about that have 499 employees are going to get rebates of $43,413. In the province of Ontario that we both represent, a business of 499 employees can get a rebate of nearly $300,000. They're going to get that money directly in their bank accounts by the end of the year.
So I found the table what she was kind of talking about of the amount of money that these small businesses are going to get back. So what they give here, and this is on the Government of Canada's website. Of course, it's going to be in the Government of Canada's favor. So they give you the total of what you're going to get back, which an Albertan is going to get back, like, per employee, $718, right? Over the course of 5 years, whereas they put in a little over 500, and then it kind of breaks down by employees down here. If you have a 10 employee business, 500 or 5,910. It's all great. It seems all great because you get more back. Kinda. Just like the rebate that they give to you individually, not really, because the carbon tax also affects whether you get packages from Amazon. The carbon tax affects the costs of pretty much getting anything delivered from your like your computers, your whatever. If you have a data, what is it? Like a data bank or something with servers, you're going to need to cool that down, and that's going to cost a lot of energy. So you're going to be using up a lot of power, and that's going to be a lot of tax on that, and a lot of extra tax every single year on that. And then when it comes to construction, I mean, the cost of wood itself has skyrocketed. So yeah, don't even get me on cost of construction, but just office jobs alone, the energy for, like I said, data banks, the energy or the tax on that, the tax on heating during the winter is going to skyrocket, just like in your home. And that's what they don't put on here. They just put how much money you get back, lump sum per employee.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Almost a year ago today, Tehran-backed terrorists unleashed the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. Ever since, they've continued to push this genocidal aim. Today, hundreds of rockets came from Tehran towards Israel, forcing millions into shelter. 2 terrorist attacks carried out. This Prime Minister has talked out of both sides of his mouth, saying one thing to one group, the opposite to another. Will the Prime Minister state clearly that Israel has the right to defend itself by defeating Hezbollah, Hamas, the IRGC, and all the other terrorists?
I'm going to leave that on YouTube, but if I don't get very many views on this, I will know why. Because I think he used a lot of words in that one sentence that YouTube does not like at all.
The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, we all seen the attacks by Iran against Israel today, and of course we condemn them unequivocally. These attacks from Iran will only serve to further escalate the region, and therefore that is why I've been in contact with my Israeli counterpart this morning, and I've been in contact with many G7 foreign ministers as well as Arab countries' foreign ministers. This is a very dangerous time for the Middle East, and we need to make sure that this war stops. Thank you.
I don't speak too much about the war in Israel too much because I don't really know the history too much about that, and not enough to really make a smart decision. But there's just 2 things I'm going to say. Thank goodness for the Iron Dome, because watching the videos on X, that thing probably saved a bunch of lives in Israel. So thank goodness for that. B, It's unfortunate that our government has pretty much destroyed our reputation on the global stage with the amount of ridiculous memes, the amount of embarrassment, and the amount of just rhetoric about how we're not really handling our country very well. It's put us in such a weak position that no country really cares about what Canada thinks. They care about what the United States thinks, and they used to care what Canada thinks because we used to be in a strong position, but not now. We have pretty much no military, and from what we showed China when they kidnapped the two Michaels, is we don't really have a spine here in Canada. So what are other countries going to care? But that's just me. I'm just the guy who reads stuff on the internet and rants about it later. So let me know, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm correct about how we're viewed on the world stage? Or are we actually like in a pretty strong position? Do we actually motivate countries to move in different situations like the United States? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you like the video, hit the like button and subscribe. And also, if you want to donate to the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link down below. Just click on her, and I really appreciate all of that stuff. Goes straight back to the channel. And other than that, have a nice day.